The rain drummed against the windows of our downtown apartment as I stirred the pasta sauce, the familiar rhythm of our Tuesday evening routine playing out like it had for 7 years. She sat at the kitchen island, scrolling through her phone with that distant look I'd noticed creeping into her eyes over the past few months. "We need to talk," she said, not looking up from the screen. I turned down the heat, wiping my hands on the dish towel. Those 4 words never preceded anything good, but I'd learned to face difficulties head-on during our marriage. "Sure, what's on your mind?" She finally looked up, and there was something in her expression I couldn't quite place, excitement mixed with nervousness, like a child about to ask for something they knew was outrageous. "I've been thinking about our relationship, about us." My stomach tightened. Here it comes, I thought. The conversation I'd been dreading. 7 years together, and somewhere along the way, we'd shifted from partners to roommates. I'd felt it too. "I think we should open our marriage," she said, the words tumbling out quickly, as if speed would soften their impact. I stood there, spatula still in hand, trying to process what I'd just heard. "Open our marriage? You mean see other people? Both of us?" "It doesn't mean we don't love each other. It just means we're being realistic about our needs." She was animated now, leaning forward. "Sarah and Tom did it, and they say it saved their marriage. We could set boundaries, have rules. Lots of couples do this." The pasta water began to boil over, hissing as it hit the heating element, but I didn't move. 7 years of my life, of building a home together, of compromises and shared dreams, and this was where we'd arrived. "You've already thought this through," I said quietly. It wasn't a question. "I have. Look, we're not getting any younger. We married young. Don't you ever wonder what else is out there? This way, we can explore without losing what we've built." Her voice carried that rehearsed quality that told me she'd practiced this speech, probably in front of the mirror. I turned off the stove, the pasta forgotten. "Is there someone already?" She hesitated just a fraction too long. "No. Well, I mean, there's someone at work I've connected with, but nothing's happened. I wouldn't do that without talking to you first." Nothing's happened. Yet. The unspoken word hung in the air between us like smoke. "So you want permission," I said, my voice level, betraying none of the turmoil churning inside me. "It's not about permission. It's about evolving our relationship. Being honest about what we want." She stood up, coming around the island toward me. "Baby, we can make this work. We're mature adults. We can handle this." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. When had that happened? When had the woman I married become someone I no longer recognized? Or had I been too comfortable, too complacent to notice the changes? "Let me think about it," I heard myself say. Her face lit up. "Really? That's all I ask. Just think about it with an open mind. Read some articles I'll send you. There are forums, success stories." I said I'll think about it, I repeated, moving past her to the bedroom. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to her moving around the apartment. She was humming, actually humming, as if she'd just proposed we try a new restaurant instead of dismantling our marriage vows. The audacity of her contentment while my world tilted on its axis was almost impressive. My phone buzzed. She'd already sent the links. 3 articles about open marriages, 2 blog posts about ethical non-monogamy, and a podcast episode titled, "Why Monogamy Isn't for Everyone." I didn't open any of them. Instead, I opened my banking app and started going through our finances, a strange clarity descending over me. Some decisions don't need days of deliberation. Some decisions announce themselves with absolute certainty, like a bell that can't be unrung. 3 days passed. 3 days during which she treated me with exaggerated sweetness, like someone trying to sell a used car they knew had a faulty engine. She'd touch my arm at breakfast, laugh too loudly at things that weren't funny, and pepper our conversations with phrases like "think of the possibilities," and "we're strong enough for this." I played along, asking the occasional question, nodding at her enthusiastic explanations. All while I quietly photographed our important documents, made copies of bank statements, and contacted the one person who mattered most, my attorney brother-in-law, who ironically was her sister's husband. "You sure about this?" he'd asked over the phone. "Never been more sure of anything." "Okay. I'll draft the separation agreement. Clean split. No contest. You'll want to move fast once you start this." Saturday morning arrived with cruel sunshine, the kind of perfect weather that mocked the gravity of what was about to happen. She emerged from the bedroom in yoga pants and an old college t-shirt, hair piled on her head, looking young and carefree. "So," she said, pouring coffee, "have you thought about what we discussed?" I was standing by the window, my packed duffel bag hidden in the closet by the door, my important documents already secured in my car from a trip I'd made at dawn. "I have." She turned, smile bright. "And I think you should have your open marriage." Her smile widened. "Really? Oh my God, I knew you'd understand once you." "Without me," I finished. The smile froze on her face, confusion replacing the excitement. "What?" "You can have all the freedom you want. I won't stand in your way." I moved toward the closet, pulling out the duffel bag I'd packed the night before while she slept. "Wait, what are you doing?" Her voice pitched higher. "This is ridiculous. You're being dramatic." I walked to the bedroom, acutely aware of her following me. I pulled out the small suitcase from under the bed, the one that held more clothes, toiletries, the leather-bound journal she'd given me on our first anniversary that now seemed like a relic from another lifetime. "Stop," she said, but there was laughter in her voice. Actual laughter. "You're not serious. You're trying to make a point, right? Trying to scare me." I didn't respond, just continued packing with methodical precision. The absurdity of the moment wasn't lost on me. How many times had I packed this suitcase for vacations, for business trips, for weekend getaways with her? Now I was packing it for forever. "Baby, come on." She was laughing harder now, that nervous laughter people produce when reality becomes too uncomfortable. "You're not actually leaving. Not over this. We're adults. We can talk about this." I zipped the suitcase, rolled it to the door, went to the kitchen drawer where we kept the spare keys, the takeout menus, the random detritus of shared life. I pulled out my keys to the apartment, placed them on the counter with a soft clink. That's when her laughter died. "You're serious," she whispered. "You're actually leaving?" "Yes." One word. Simple. Final. But we can work through this." I didn't mean, maybe I was too hasty, "We can see a counselor." The words tumbled out in a rush, panic replacing the earlier confidence. "Don't be stupid. You're throwing away 7 years. I pulled out my phone, showed her the apartment listings I'd already bookmarked. "I've contacted a lawyer. Papers will be ready Monday. You can keep the apartment. I want a clean split, 50-50 on everything else. We have no kids, no shared property beyond this lease. It should be straightforward." "A lawyer?" Her voice cracked. "You've already contacted a lawyer? When? You've been planning this while pretending to consider. You lied to me." The irony would have been funny if it weren't so sad. I've been practical. Something one of us needed to be. I picked up my bags, headed for the door. She followed, grabbing my arm. "You can't just leave. You can't just walk away from everything we built." I gently removed her hand. "You already walked away. I'm just making it official." "This is insane. You're being childish. Throwing a tantrum because you didn't get your way." Her voice rose, attracting attention from behind closed doors in the hallway. "I'm not angry," I said, and it was true. I felt calm, centered, certain. I just know what I want, and it's not this. It was never going to be this. "Fine," she shouted as I walked toward the elevator. "Leave. See if I care. You'll never find anyone better than me. You're going to regret this." The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside, pressed the ground floor button. As the doors began to close, I saw her face, anger melting into realization, her hand reaching out too late. The last thing I heard was her voice, small and desperate. "Wait." But I was already descending, leaving 7 years behind with each floor I passed, feeling lighter than I had in months. The apartment felt cavernous without him. She stood in the middle of the living room for what felt like hours after he left, expecting him to come back. This was a bluff, obviously. A dramatic gesture. He'd cool down, realize he was being ridiculous, and return. By Sunday evening, when his key never turned in the lock, doubt began its insidious creep. She called him 16 times. Texted 34 messages, ranging from angry, "You're being a child," to conciliatory, "Let's talk about this like adults," to desperate, "Please just come home." All went unanswered. Monday morning, she dragged herself to work, eyes swollen from crying she'd never admit to. Her colleague, James, the one she'd mentioned having a connection with, stopped by her desk with coffee. "Rough weekend?" he asked, his smile warm and knowing. This was it, she thought. The freedom she'd wanted. No one to answer to, no guilt, no limitations. "The roughest," she said, accepting the coffee. "But maybe it's time for a fresh start." They went to lunch. Then dinner Thursday. By Friday, she'd convinced herself she was fine, that she'd done the right thing, that her husband's dramatic exit was his loss. She kissed James in his car, expecting fireworks, validation, proof that she'd been right about needing more. Instead, she felt nothing. Worse than nothing. Hollow. "You okay?" James asked, pulling back. "Yeah, it's been a weird week." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Look, I should be honest. I like you, but I'm not really looking for anything serious. You mentioned your marriage was open, so I figured we were on the same page." Her stomach dropped. Open. Right. Yes, same page. Cool. "So, your place tonight." She made an excuse, claimed she had an early morning. The drive home was torture, her mind replaying the conversation. James wanted easy. No commitment, no depth, no real connection. Just access. Was that what she'd wanted? Is that what she'd thrown away her marriage for? The apartment greeted her with silence. She noticed things she'd never paid attention to before, the way he'd installed floating shelves for her book collection, the herb garden he'd maintained in the kitchen window because she'd mentioned once she wished she could cook with fresh basil, the way he'd labeled all the cables behind the TV so she'd never get confused about which cord was which. Small things. Thoughtful things. Things she'd stopped seeing years ago. Over the next 2 weeks, she went on 6 dates. An app programmer who spent the entire evening talking about crypto. A personal trainer who critiqued her food choices. A divorced lawyer who was clearly still in love with his ex-wife. A musician who borrowed $40 and never called again. A seemingly nice guy who became aggressive when she didn't invite him up. Another colleague who ghosted her after 3 dates. No explanation. None of them asked about her day. None of them remembered how she took her coffee. None of them noticed when she was tired or stressed or needed space. None of them were him. Her sister called on a Saturday morning, voice tight with anger. "What did you do?" "What do you mean?" "My husband says you asked him for an open marriage? Are you insane? Do you have any idea how good you had it?" "I just wanted." "Wanted what? Drama? Adventure? Reality check. Dating in your 30s is a nightmare. You had a man who worshipped you, who came home every night, who actually did his share of housework, and you blew it up for what? Some fantasy. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You got bored and instead of working on your marriage, you took the coward's way out. And now he's gone, and he's not coming back, and you're realizing that what you thought was boring was actually called stability." The call ended. She sat on the couch, the one they'd picked out together after visiting 6 furniture stores, the one he'd assembled while she supervised with wine and music, and let herself acknowledge the truth. She'd made a catastrophic mistake. She opened her laptop, typed his name into Facebook. His status hadn't changed, still married, no updates. But there were photos from last weekend. Him at a hiking trail with his brother and some friends, genuinely smiling, the kind of smile that reached his eyes. A smile she hadn't seen in over a year. He looked happy. Free. She pulled up their text thread, Her messages a one-sided conversation with herself. She typed out another message, "I was wrong. Can we please talk?" Her finger hovered over send. Then she saw the 3 dots. He was typing. Her heart hammered. Finally, he was responding. The message appeared, "Please stop contacting me. My lawyer will be in touch regarding the divorce papers. I wish you well." Divorce papers. The word felt like a slap. She'd been thinking separation, time apart, a wake-up call. He'd been thinking permanent ending. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday, delivered by a courier who asked her to sign with the same casual efficiency someone might use when dropping off a package from Amazon. She stood in the doorway, the envelope heavy in her hands, unable to move. Inside, everything was outlined with painful clarity. Clean 50-50 split of their savings. She kept the apartment and its furnishings. He kept his car, she kept hers. No alimony requested from either party. A marriage reduced to bullet points and legal terminology. At the bottom, a sticky note in handwriting she recognized, "I've already signed. Your signature finalizes everything. No need for us to meet." Him. Even in dissolution, he was making it easy for her. The realization felt like swallowing glass. Work became unbearable. James had moved on to pursuing someone from accounting, barely acknowledging her in the hallways. She'd hear him laugh, that same charming laugh he'd used on her, and feel nothing but embarrassment at her own naivety. She tried therapy. The counselor, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, listened patiently as she explained the situation. "I thought I wanted freedom," she said. "I thought the marriage was suffocating me." "And what did you discover?" the therapist asked. "That I was suffocating myself. He was never the problem. He was steady, reliable, present. I mistook that for boring. I mistook security for stagnation. What do you think you were really looking for?" She was quiet for a long moment. Excitement? Validation? Proof that I was still desirable? She laughed bitterly. "I'm 33 years old, and I acted like a teenager. Self-awareness is a good first step. What do you want now?" "I want him back," she whispered. "I want to undo it all." The therapist's expression was gentle but firm. "You can't undo it. You can only move forward. The question is, forward to what?" She tried calling him again that night, liquid courage from half a bottle of wine making her brave. He answered on the 4th ring. "Hello." His voice was cautious. "It's me. Please don't hang up." A long pause. "What do you want?" "To talk. To explain. I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. I was stupid and selfish and I didn't appreciate what I had." "Okay." Another pause. "Anything else?" His calmness was somehow worse than anger would have been. "That's it. Just okay? Don't you have anything to say to me? What would you like me to say? That you forgive me. That you understand. That you'll give me another chance." Her voice broke, tears streaming down her face. "That you still love me." The silence stretched so long she thought he'd hung up. Then, "I hope you find what you're looking for. I really do. But it won't be with me." "Why? Why can't you forgive me? People make mistakes." "It's not about forgiveness." His voice was tired. "I do forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. You showed me who you are and what you value. I believe you. And what you value isn't a life with me." "That's not true. I was confused, I was." "You were honest," he interrupted. "Maybe for the first time in years. You told me exactly what you wanted, and I respected that enough to step aside. Don't rewrite history now that you're uncomfortable with the consequences." "So that's it. 7 years mean nothing." "7 years mean everything. They taught me what I need, what I deserve, and what I won't accept. I won't be someone's safety net while they explore other options. I won't be the backup plan. I deserve to be someone's first choice, always. You taught me that." I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't change anything. Sign the papers. Move on. Be happy. Just be those things without me. The line went dead. She spent the weekend stalking his social media, watching his life continue without her. Photos of him at a comedy show with friends. At a new restaurant downtown. At the gym, visibly losing weight, looking healthier than he had in years. Living. Meanwhile, her world felt smaller every day. The friends they'd shared had quietly chosen sides, and most had chosen his. She couldn't blame them. He'd always been the one who remembered birthdays, who showed up when someone needed help moving, who listened without judgment. Her mother called Sunday evening. The conversation was brief and brutal. Your father and I think you should see someone. A professional. I'm already in therapy, Mom. Good. Because what you did, honey, I don't even recognize you. That man loved you. He provided for you, supported your career, never once made you feel less than. And you threw it away for what? Some midlife crisis. I'm 33, not middle-aged. Then stop acting like a foolish child. Sign the papers. Let him go. And figure out why you destroyed the best thing in your life before you ruin the next 7 years too. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, she saw him at a coffee shop downtown. Pure coincidence. She was meeting a friend, he was picking up an order. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and for a moment, time suspended. He looked good. Better than good. He'd lost weight, but more than that, he carried himself differently. Confident. Settled. Happy. He nodded politely, a stranger's acknowledgement, and turned back to the barista. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Her friend was talking about her upcoming wedding, but the words were just noise. All she could focus on was the man across the room who used to be her entire world. Then a woman appeared at his side. Pretty, professional looking, with an easy smile. She said something that made him laugh, really laugh, the kind of uninhibited joy she'd forgotten he was capable of. The woman touched his arm naturally, comfortably, like she had the right to. He handed her one of the coffees, kept one for himself, and they headed for the door together. As they passed her table, the woman glanced at her with polite disinterest, but he didn't look again. They walked out into the sunshine, and she watched through the window as they paused on the sidewalk. The woman said something, he smiled, and they walked away together, his hand resting lightly on her back. Earth to hello. Her friend waved a hand in front of her face. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. That was my ex-husband, she said quietly. With the brunette. Oh honey, I'm sorry. That must be hard. She looked happy. They looked happy. Well, you're doing great too. You're dating, I'm not doing great, she interrupted. I'm going through the motions. Every date feels like an audition I'm failing. Every night I come home to an empty apartment and remember everything I gave up. Her friend's expression softened. It was 3 months ago. Give yourself time. He's had the same amount of time. Look at him. Maybe he's been ready to move on longer than you think. Maybe he checked out of the marriage before you even suggested opening it. The thought should have brought comfort, the idea that she wasn't solely to blame, that the marriage was doomed anyway. Instead, it made everything worse. If he'd been unhappy, why hadn't he said something? Why hadn't they fought for it together? But she knew the answer. He probably had said something, in 1,000 small ways she'd been too distracted to notice. The suggestions for date nights she'd been too tired for. The attempts at conversation she'd cut short. The affection she'd received but not returned. That night, she pulled out the box she'd hidden in the closet. Photos from their relationship, cards he'd written, little mementos she couldn't bring herself to throw away. One photo stopped her, their wedding day, both of them grinning like they'd won the lottery, the whole world ahead of them. She'd been so sure of everything then. So certain of their forever. She put the box away, pulled out her journal, and began to write. Not to him, those letters remained unsent, but to herself. About what she'd learned, what she'd lost, what she'd hopefully gain from this devastation. Lessons written in regret. Love isn't about excitement. It's about choosing someone every day, even when it's boring, especially when it's boring. Freedom means nothing if you're using it to run from something instead of toward something. You can't appreciate sunshine until you've lived through storms of your own making. Sometimes the person you need to be saved from is yourself. 6 months later, she'd signed the lease on a smaller apartment, accepted the promotion that required relocating to another city. A fresh start, not because she was running away, but because staying meant drowning in the ghost of what she'd destroyed. Her last night in town, she drove past their old building, her old building now, though she'd moved out 2 months prior. The lights were on in their old apartment. New tenants, new lives, new chances that hopefully wouldn't be squandered. She thought about texting him one final goodbye but decided against it. He'd moved on. He deserved his peace. Disrupting that peace to ease her own guilt would be selfish, and she'd been selfish enough for a lifetime. Instead, she pulled out her phone and deleted his number. Not out of anger, but as an act of mercy, for both of them. The drive to her new city took 6 hours. She listened to podcasts about starting over, about forgiveness, about building a life worth living. She thought about the woman in the coffee shop, the ease between them, the way he'd looked at her. She hoped he was happy. Genuinely hoped it, without the bitter edge she'd carried for months. He deserved happiness after weathering the storm of their ending. As for her own happiness, that was still being written. A story without a clear ending yet, just a woman driving toward an uncertain future, carrying hard-won wisdom and the kind of regrets that shape you if you let them. At a rest stop, she sat in her car and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and purple. Her phone buzzed, a text from her therapist checking in, making sure she was okay on this transitional day. She typed back, "I'm okay. Not healed, but healing. Thank you for everything." Starting the car again, she merged back onto the highway, leaving behind the city that held 7 years of her life and the man who deserved better than what she'd given. Somewhere ahead was a version of herself who'd learned from this, who wouldn't need to destroy something beautiful to appreciate its value. The road stretched endlessly before her, and for the first time in months, that felt like possibility instead of punishment. She'd asked for freedom, and she'd gotten it. Now she was learning what to do with it, not by filling it with meaningless connections, but by building something substantial within herself first. Somewhere behind her, he was living his own story, one where she was a chapter that had closed. Somewhere ahead, both of them had futures waiting. They just wouldn't include each other. And finally, painfully, she was beginning to accept that.